Satellite spectrum. The satellite or orbit spectrum is a segment of radio spectrum made available when satellites are placed into orbit. This spectrum is part of the broader radio frequency spectrum, which encompasses all electromagnetic frequencies used for various wireless communication and broadcasting purposes. This spectrum is a limited resource for every country, utilized by firms to implement satellite broadcasting, communication satellites, and weather satellite services. This spectrum is divided into many different frequency bands. The choice of bands depends on many factors, including the specific applications. The frequency is an integral part of the satellite's construction and does not change after launch. How does frequency impact the data transfer? In simple terms, the frequency of a signal refers to the number of times the underlying wave oscillates per second. The higher the frequency, the faster the waves appear to move and the more data can be transmitted per second. However, higher frequency also means shorter wavelength, that is the length between the start and end of each wave, which can lead to a reduction in the strength of the signal over a distance called signal attenuation and an increased risk of signal interference. Satellites generally transmit on a frequency between 1.5 and 51.5 GHz to a gigahertz equals 1 billion Hz. High-speed broadband operates at the higher end of the spectrum. The International Telecommunication Union or ITU is the United Nations institution that coordinates the allocation of frequencies globally. The International Telecommunication Union has allocated parts of this spectrum range to specific categories of services and has identified those frequencies best suited for transmission via satellite. Key facts about International Telecommunication Union. It is the United Nations specialized agency for information and communication technologies. It is an intergovernmental organization that coordinates between governments and private sector bodies with respect to global telecommunication and information communication technology services. It was established in 1865 as International Telegraph Union. In 1947, the International Telecommunication Union became a specialized agency of the United Nations, headquarters Geneva, Switzerland. Membership. It has a membership of 193 countries and nearly 800 private sector entities and academic institutions. Functions. Allocate global radio spectrum and satellite orbits, coordination and setting of technical standards related to telecommunication, strive to improve access to ICT in underserved communities worldwide. India and ITU. India has been an active member of the ITU since 1869 and has been a regular member of the ITU Council since 1952. What are radio waves? Radio waves are a type of electromagnetic radiation with long wavelength, low frequency and low energy levels within the electromagnetic spectrum. They are a form of invisible energy carrying wave that have a wide range of application, particularly in telecommunication and broadcasting. What is airwaves spectrum? Airwaves are radio frequency within the electromagnetic spectrum that can carry information wirelessly for a range of service, including telecommunication. The government manages and allocates airwaves to companies or sectors for their use. The government auctions a fixed amount of spectrum within a specified band to be utilized by operators for providing communication service to consumers. What is satellite spectrum? Satellite spectrum refers to the range of radio frequency used by satellite to communicate with ground stations, other satellites and various devices on Earth. These frequencies are part of the electromagnetic spectrum, specifically the radio waves, and allocated for different satellite services such as communication, broadcasting, navigation, and Earth observation. Regulation. The use of satellite spectrum is regulated by international bodies like the International Telecommunication Union. ITU coordinates and allocates frequency to prevent interference between different satellite systems and other forms of communication. Satellite frequency bands. L-band 1 to 2 GHz used for GPS and mobile satellite services. S-band 2 to 4 GHz used for weather radar, air traffic control and mobile satellite services. C-band 4 to 8 GHz commonly used for satellite TV broadcasting and data communications. X-band 8 to 12 GHz used primarily by the military for radar and communication. Ku-band 12 to 18 GHz and Ka-band 26 to 40 GHz used for satellite television, internet, and high throughput data transmission. Auctions versus administrative allocation of spectrum. Auctions involve competitive bidding where spectrum licenses are sold to the highest bidder, promoting efficient resource allocation and generating revenue for the government. This method ensures transparency, reducing the chances of favoritism or corruption, and is commonly used in commercial telecommunication for optimal spectrum uses. Auctions are preferred in competitive markets where multiple entities compete for access. Administrative allocation. Administrative allocation involves the government directly assigning spectrum licenses without a bidding process, often for a nominal fee covering administrative costs. This method is used when auctions are impractical, offering flexibility for sectors like national security, public services, or emerging industries like satellite communication. It is suitable for areas with low competition or where frequency sharing among users is feasible, ensuring easier access to resources for specialized or government-related services. Key differences between auction and administrative allocation. The auction method is competitive, market-driven, and generates significant revenue, ensuring transparency by allocating spectrum to the highest bidder, making it ideal for commercial markets. In contrast, administrative allocation is a direct government assignment with lower fees, offering flexibility but less transparency, suited for government services or specialized sectors. Both methods are essential in spectrum management, with the choice depending on regulatory goals and market needs. Satellite spectrum to be allocated administratively in India. The government has chosen to allocate satellite communication SATCOM spectrum through administrative means, rejecting the auction route. This development underscores the growing competition for satellite services in the Indian market, which is projected to grow at 36% annually and reach $1.9 billion by 2030. Starlink, Musk company, advocates for direct licensing, aligning with global practices and arguing that spectrum as a natural resource should be shared. On the other hand, Reliance, led by Ambani, believe that an auction is necessary to ensure fair competition. Rationale behind India's stand. Unlike terrestrial spectrum, which is used for mobile communication, satellite spectrum has no national territorial limits and is international in character. Satellite spectrum is shared spectrum. If the spectrum is shared, then it cannot be priced individually. As a result, satellite spectrum across the world is allocated administratively. India, being a signatory of Indian Telecommunication Union, decided to follow the global practice of allocating satellite spectrum administratively. The Telecommunication Act 2023 had also added spectrum for satellite communication in the list of administrative allocation. Spectrum allocation controversies in India. India's spectrum allocation has been controversial, especially due to the shift from auctions to administrative assignment, highlighted by the 2G spectrum scam. The scam involved allocating licenses on a first-come, first-served basis, resulting in significant financial losses with alleged damage of Rs 30,984 crore and a presumptive loss of Rs 1.6 trillion. Following this, the Supreme Court mandated auctions for spectrum allocation in 2012. Despite this, the Telecommunication Act 2023 introduced a non-auction route for allocating satellite spectrum, making a shift in the regulatory approach. Why is India choosing administrative allocation for satellite spectrum? India opted for administrative allocation because satellite spectrum shared globally and regulated by the International Telecommunication Union cannot be auctioned like terrestrial spectrum. This approach aligns with global practices for satellite communication. What are the key differences between auction and administrative allocation of spectrum? Auctions involve competitive bidding and revenue generation, while administrative allocation assigns spectrum directly for a specialized sector, offering flexibility and lower fees but less transparency.